So I've been hungry to get back into a really good RPG. After a recent experience with another game that will remain nameless, I have wanted a good RPG to sink my teeth into. So I've gone back and I've played more Baldur's Gate 3. I've replayed a bunch of The Witcher, for example. But one that I've wanted to get back into again is Cyberpunk 2077, but not just anyway. I've wanted to dig into the photorealism mods that I'm sure we've all seen on social media. I'm sure you've seen the posts, all these people talking about how they got the game running photorealistically, and a lot of it looks post-processed, and it doesn't look like you could ever get the game running that well at all. But I accepted the challenge, and I've spent the last week or so fiddling around with a lot of mods, even though I have no idea what I'm doing, and here I am to report to you, I got it working. This is Cyberpunk 2077 running with ultra realism mods, with full path tracing, with ridiculous levels of fidelity, running in real time, absolutely blowing my mind that this is a video game. I'll show you more of this in just a second. I'm going to show you also what mods are making this possible and how it works so you can check it out yourself. But first, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, without whom this video could not have been made, and that is LG. You might have noticed from the camera angle behind me, convenient, isn't it, that this is running on the all-new LG 45-inch monster ultra wide, and oh baby is this game pretty on this monitor. It's ridiculous. This is the newest model of their 45-inch ultra wide gaming monitor. This is an OLED panel, meaning black pixels are actually turned off. There's no light being emitted, meaning that you have perfect inky blacks, just like you might be familiar with on other LG TVs and stuff that are top of the industry when it comes to fidelity. It also means with a 0.03 millisecond response time that you can play shooters, first-person shooters, competitive shooters, whatever it is, without any fear of latency at the altar of fidelity. You get the fidelity and you get the responsiveness, and my goodness, it looks good. And adding to the OLED technology allowing for deeper blacks, this is VESA Display HDR True Black 400 certified, which basically just means that it greatly improves image detail in dark scenes, which is traditionally where a lot of displays struggle. The monitor has also adopted MLA Plus, which gives for increased brightness, so you get deeper blacks and improved brightness at the high end. It really is the top of the line when it comes to monitors. And of course, being an ultra wide monitor, it fills in the peripheral vision for you. So it makes games far more immersive when you're going through them, because entire chunks of the screen that you normally wouldn't see are now filled in. And especially for first-person titles, it really makes a difference. And when you're able to crank a game graphically, like you can see here, man, does it look good. Gee whiz. I've noticed when I'm really excited about something, I start talking like a 1950s sitcom character. Gee whiz willikers. But it, like, seriously, it is like being a kid again in, you know, the Best Buy or the GameStop, and it's just a world of possibilities where you're just like, your mind is blown at how this is possible. That's what this monitor does. It's gorgeous. I want to say thank you to LG for sending this over. I want to say thank you to them for sponsoring this video and making it possible so that we can go back and appreciate photorealistic Cyberpunk. And if you're interested, I'll have all of the links below to check out this monitor and LG's entire lineup, all of that down in the pinned comment and the description box below. They're also doing a massive Black Friday sale to celebrate Black Friday, and I can't recommend LG monitors enough. I use LG monitors exclusively in my studio. All of the displays I use are LG, and there's a reason. It's because they're the best. So highly recommend them. Check them out. Links below. But having said that, let me show you a little bit of how this actually works in practice. So as you can see, we're currently going through Night City, specifically Dogtown, the expansion city, at nighttime. Now this, you may notice, is a lot more NPCs than is typical. This is because I've installed mods that not just improve the graphical fidelity and allow us to tweak certain things like depth of field, for example, as we look around the city, but also mods that improve the liveliness of the city, increasing the number of NPCs walking about, the variety of them, all of these different little mods that are meant to increase the sense of immersion motion and realism. It also overhauls the number of cars that you'll see driving around at nighttime and in the daytime. There's even mods that have been made that I couldn't get working that revamp what types of cars spawn in different parts of the city. So if you're in an industrial area, there's going to be totally different fleets of trucks making deliveries and stuff versus in the more bougie parts of the city, overhauling the spawn rates of cars over there. Also, it's much more realistic and immersive. And of course, right now you can see that we have full path tracing enabled. We have lens flares out the wazoo, and it's looking great. But what does it look like at other times of day? Well, another mod that I installed allows us to quickly try something else. If I tap F7 on my keyboard, you can see that it will randomly set a new time of day. I'm gonna press it again until we get one in like the middle of the day. Let's go. Oh yeah, 6:30. So we're right here, early morning, and you can see how the lighting effects change as we look about. Now, the core mod that makes all of these visual enhancements possible is called ReShade. It's a mod that works on a bunch of different games and platforms, but it's sort of the foundation upon which we build our mod kit and loadout to make this possible. So as you can see, we're looking around. The biggest change here is going to be the color changes. The LUTs, or L-U-T is how it's abbreviated. But basically, it's just a file that tells the game how to recolor the scene, kind of like color grading. And it changes the look, and a little change can go a long way in games like this to either make the color palette more realistic or more cinematic, whatever you prefer. But we don't stop there. If we press the home key, you can see this opens up the ReShade preset menu, which looks really daunting and scary as we tick through this. But basically, we have a few key mods that make this possible. So if I close this down and I focus on something like this post right here, you can see on the outskirts of the image, there's a lot of bokeh. There is sort of a depth of field effect that's been applied as you get farther and farther away from the camera. That's part of what makes this feel so high quality, is that very, very soft depth of field. It wouldn't be that practical in actual real-time gameplay because it would cause you to constantly like be trying to see details or enemies in the distance, but you just couldn't. So it looks really good, but in practice it might not be that helpful. If we go down, we can just uncheck that and it will turn it off. And you can see just how different this is now as we're going through exploring the city. It still looks phenomenal, but something as little as that post-processing effect can make a huge difference. Now, also you'll notice the reflections on all of the cars are ridiculous. That is also the result of a mod that increases the reflectivity of vehicles as well. This also, of course, is a rainy day scene, which is where we can really flex the power of path tracing, because that's primarily where path tracing is useful, is in reflections and in neon lights that are bouncing around all over the place at nighttime. But if we were to change the weather, like this rainstorm, we can go into a rainstorm preset. We can go into fog or drizzle and change that around, see how that looks. And if we press it again, we can go to just heavy over what's the term? What's the word? Why can I know? Overcast. That's it. And even this is kind of impressive because it's really tough to get soft skybox lighting to look good, especially in buildings that have enclosed spaces adjacent to outdoor spaces. It's really, really tough to get that soft gradation of light right. You know, it's really easy to either blow it out one way or the other, where it's too dark or it's way too bright. But here you can see that the path tracing actually does a real number on it, especially once you add in the little neon signs and lighting that are up on the top. But as we continue cycling different weather conditions, heavy smog, sunset, you can really appreciate how dynamic the lighting systems are in this game, especially once you give it some improved capabilities with some mods that rework stuff. Dew, what a lovely weather. What a lovely bit of weather. And I think the most impactful mod for me is the increased NPC density. I think it makes the whole game feel way more alive. It makes the city feel like a city, and I hope next gen open world games really go balls to the walls with NPCs. And I mean, another game that did it really well was Watch Dogs Legion, which was not a great game, but technologically it was very impressive because every single NPC had a place in the map where they lived, a place on the map where they worked. They had schedules. They went to and from work. They came back. They socialized with other NPCs. It was very impressive. They just kind of forgot to make a fun game out of it. They were like, okay, we've got this impressive system. Oh, right, we were supposed to make a video game. And by that point, it was kind of too late. But I really hope they continue to push it because more NPCs where it feels even more dynamic, that can go a long, long way. But let's actually take control of a car and drive around as we look at some other stuff. So obviously I can't show you this part, but there are also mods installed to revamp I just ran that guy down, to revamp the steering of vehicles in the base game. It's still a little bit clunky even after all the patches. It's just a little tough to manage, especially the bigger vehicles, but this is redone and reworked. Sorry guys, sorry, my bad. But this is one of the big takeaways as I've experimented with a bunch of different mods over the last week or so with this game, is that some of them are much more impactful than others, and some of them you wouldn't expect to be as impactful as they are. Something as simple as just adding a little bit of depth of field to the footage, that can significantly alter how something looks, and that can significantly affect how cinematic it feels. It's a small detail, but it really does add a lot to the overall look. Of course, I've also turned off the HUD and stuff like that to make it a little bit more immersive so that you can see more of what's actually happening on screen. But little bitty changes like that can have a huge impact in the final look and feel of the game, even if in gameplay it's not that practical. So that's one piece of this, is that just because something looks really good in a video does not mean that it would actually translate to improved gameplay were you to try and enjoy the game that way. The other big takeaway from this is that there is no magic mod that makes the game look like this on like an Xbox or on a PlayStation or something. The reason this game looks this insane is because of path tracing, which was subsidized primarily by NVIDIA coming in and using Cyberpunk 2077 as a graphical showcase for all of their tech. And that's just important to note because this game got a lot more back-end support than your standard game would, just because it was the game that NVIDIA decided to use as a showcase title to demonstrate how powerful their various technologies were. So that's a big part of it. And unless you've got crazy top-of-the-line hardware that can really push the path tracing, for example, the mods will help, but every time you add in a mod, every time there's a new little bitty thing to manage and to process, it will significantly increase the amount of time it takes to render each frame. It will significantly increase the difficulty for the game to run. As you can see with these graphic stats and performance stats, I mean, I'm running this on a 4090 and already, I mean, we're struggling to get above 50 frames because this is so crazy. I mean, even that's impressive because we are using DLSS, but this is not using frame gen because frame generation actually breaks a number of the mods that I have installed here. But it's very, very heavy. Let's just say that. You certainly need some top-of-the-line hardware to be able to run this stuff, but this does kind of give you a glimpse into the future because modded versions of Skyrim that we saw in 2013, 14, 15, we thought that was way ahead of its time, and now the average game kind of looks like that. So eventually all of these games that are slated to come out in the next 5-6 years are going to be probably, hopefully, on this level when it comes to just sheer tech powerhousery. I mean, this is crazy. But at the same time, I'm also blown away that CDPR had this technology at their disposal. Like, with a few mods, you can make the game look like this, and that's absolutely crazy. It's insane. And they chose to walk away from this for Unreal Engine 5. For The Witcher 4 and everything else that they're doing. That, to me, gets me thoroughly intrigued because it makes me wonder, like, what did they see in those, like, behind closed door meetings with Epic that made them go, oh, okay, yeah, okay. We'll walk away from that thing we've spent years building. We're gonna go with your stuff. Like, I can only imagine what they saw the prototype builds for, and I'm here for it. Because this is already crazy impressive, and it makes me just wonder how much more impressive what they've shown off over there could possibly be. Because, I mean, if it's good enough for them to abandon this engine, it's got to be pretty good. But to showcase some other stuff that you could do, there's all sorts of different little effects that you could use. You could use arcane bloom if you really liked the bloom effects. Improved atmosphere, so like if you really like the misty look, you can do that. All of these can be included in your install of ReShade if you just look it up through their Patreon. Depth sharpen, you can increase that so that things that are blurred out also get sharpened up. Chromatic aberration, which is a common post-processing effect that's used in all sorts of different games. That's also used pretty heavily in base Cyberpunk, but you can use it here as well and enhance it even further. There's also added support for things like letterboxing, specialized color curves. You can increase the fisheye lens effect or try to reduce it and get rid of it if you're playing on various ultra wides. There's tons of stuff for you to play around with, and you can tweak it based on what you like, what you don't like, and really hone in on what specific style you would like to see in your version of Cyberpunk. The other way you can do it is by simply going over to Nexus Mods, which I'll have some footage of right here, and they have hundreds, thousands of mods for you to fish through, and they have everything from individual little LUTs to change the lighting all the way to major gameplay affecting mods that totally rework combat or enemies, or one that I've enjoyed and I've done videos on before, which is flying cars, that allows you to create a car that basically just flies around the map and you can fly it and control it yourself. It's super cool. From there, you install Nexus Mod Manager, which is Vortex as it's known. That's a solid bet. Or you install everything manually and you do it that way. And you can have a really solid, easy time with all of this. But I mean, look at this guy. Look how cool this looks. I mean, it looked cool in the base game, but this ain't half bad. I'll tell you what. It's tough doing this without any sort of visual feedback because I have the HUD turned off, but there you go. I mean, it's just so cool, man. It's so good. I'm so glad they fixed Cyberpunk, because man, the game is so solid. And it just really botched the launch, and now that they've enhanced it, they fixed it, they spent years doing it. I can't even imagine how much money was spent on it. Now we just have an amazing game to sink our teeth into. And if you put the time in, you get a few little mods, you can enjoy it in a fidelity level that is unparalleled. But if you want to try these mods out for yourself, I'll have all the ones that I used and showcased in this video linked in the description box below. They really are ridiculously easy to install. At that point, it's just a matter of tinkering with what you specifically like. The modders have done a phenomenal job of increasing the support that their mods have for each other and what they're capable of running on. So as long as you have the power to actually run it on your PC, you can really push the boundary. And I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I'm kind of giddy. So I'm excited to play through Cyberpunk again with this level of fidelity, and I can't wait for it. So join me, install the game, check it out. It's ridiculous and awesome. And thank you, LG, for providing a phenomenal monitor to play it on. I'm here for it. But that's gonna do it for me. Thank you for watching. I love the gosh darn heck out of every single one of you. Again, links to LG's stuff below in the description box or pinned comment. Check them out. And until next time, my friends, much love. I'll see you soon. Bye.